Hello everyone. This is a recording of building a business website in 1 hour. So let's get started. What I'm going to show you today is why use WordPress, give you a very quick overview of why WordPress is a good system to use to develop your business website on, what your minimum requirements are for your business website, and of course you would also need to know what your WordPress requirements are going to be. After that, we are going to get into installing the WordPress and we will start building a website. We will add a few pages, few blog posts, and then we will optimize the website using plugins and themes. And then, because this is a recording and we will not be able to answer the questions directly, as I said earlier, feel free to either email us or post it on our Facebook page and we will answer the questions there. We will give you the address to our Facebook page at the end of this webinar. So why WordPress? WordPress is a very easy to use content management system, also known as a CMS system. WordPress was initially designed as a blog system, not necessarily as a system to develop a website on, but over the years it has developed into a content management system and works very well when you are developing your website. Having said that, while it is very easy on one hand, when you really get into it, sometimes it does become a bit difficult. So it's not a perfect solution, but it is a good solution to get your website up and running. As you will see today, we will have a website up and running in about an hour. It may not be the perfect website and you may want to make some changes to that, and most of the changes are easy to make. I would suggest that about 95% of the things that you want to do to your website, you can do it very easily using a WordPress. It's the other 5% when you get really deep into it and you really want to make different changes, it gets a bit difficult. The other thing WordPress is really good at is because it's very extendable. There are lots of plugins that are free and there are some that are commercial but not very costly that will allow you to take your website to the next level. And we will show you some of the plugins that we're going to use today. And then there are, of course, themes that you can also, many that are free and some that are commercial that you can use to make your website look very good. So what's the difference between plugins and themes? Plugins are small software scripts that do a variety of different things within your website. And as I said, you will see some examples of it and that will give you a better idea of what that is. Themes, on the other hand, are simply the look and feel of a website. So how your feed looks like, where your images go, where your content goes, that's what the theme would dictate depending on the theme that you have used. And that's one of the great things about a content management system, not just WordPress, but any content management system, is that there's a separation of content and design. So when you have content on your website and you change the design of the site, it will not impact your content. Your content will still remain the same. With the same way, if you change the content of your website, it will not impact your design. Your design will still remain the way it is. This is not a feature that's available if you're not using a content management system, if you're not using a CMS. So for example, if you use Dreamweaver, every time you make a change to the content, it will impact your design and vice versa. So if you're developing a website that is beyond just a basic website of a couple of pages, then I will highly recommend that you use a content management system, whether that's WordPress or another one, it doesn't matter. And the last bit that I want to mention about WordPress, why it's a good CMS system, is that it is right out of the box. It is optimized for search engines. Google loves WordPress. In my own personal blog, where I don't blog very often, I probably only blog maybe once every 3 months, 3 to 4 times a year. Still, it is so optimized that every time I post a blog, Google picks it up in less than 15 minutes. That's 1/5 5 minutes. As a matter of fact, 15 minutes is probably the longest time Google has taken to index that post. So right out of the box, it is optimized for search engines. And then on top of that, there are many plugins that you can add to your WordPress website, which will make it even more optimized than it already is. Now, of course, the thing that I didn't mention that is very good for WordPress is that WordPress is free. There is no charge for it. It won't cost you any money other than your time that you will spend on developing a website. Now, even if you don't want to develop your website yourself and you hire a different company to develop it or a person to develop it, I still think WordPress is a good option for you. And here are the reasons why. Number one, even for that developer, because they can develop their website quickly, the time is not going to be spent too much on doing things that comes out of the box with WordPress. Your cost will be lower. Secondly, even if they develop and then they leave you because WordPress is so prominent, there's so many developers of WordPress out there that you can then hire somebody else to continue the development of your website if it's developed on WordPress. If you have using a different content management system or design system that is not as well supported, then you would have to perhaps maybe start over again if you want to change your website or make any changes to the website. Great, so moving on, what are the requirements for a business website? At a minimum, there are two requirements. The first one is a domain name. You would need a business domain name. And there are three types, generally speaking, there are three types of domain names that are available to you, or rather I should say extension of the domain name that's available to you. The first one most people are familiar with, they are the top level domain names. That is a domain name that ends in either .com, .org, or .net. So for example, our website is smallbusinesscenter.com. Now you have two choices here. You can either go with the name of your business, .com, .org, or .net, or you can go with what you do about your business. So for example, a keyword that people will be searching for. Now in our case, we have the keyword as well as the name of our business in our domain name. So smallbusinesscenter.com includes the name of our business, which is the Small Business Center, but also what we do, we provide services for small businesses. So the keyword small business is part of our business name as well as a domain name. So for example, if your business name is ABC Company and you sell shoes, you have two choices. You can either go with the domain name abccompany.com or you can go with the domain name shoes.com, assuming of course that either or both of those domain names are available. Something as generic as shoes.com most probably is not available because probably somebody already owns that domain name. So you would have to consider that. So anyways, your first choice is a top level domain name, .com, .org, or .net. The second choice you have is a country level, top level domain name. So every country in the world has an extension. So for example, .us, obviously for the US as a country, .uk for the United Kingdom, .ca for Canada, .fr for France, .de for Germany, .sg for Singapore. As I said, every country in the world has a domain name, and the country that you are in probably wants to already has a domain name that you can register your name under. Many countries also have a second level domain name. So in the UK, while you can buy a .uk, the chances are you will actually buy a .co.uk for your company. So again, if your company is named ABC Company, you may buy something like abccompany.co.uk. In the US, every state has a second level domain name. So for example, California is .ca.us, Arizona is .az.us or az.us, whichever way you want to pronounce that alphabet. And then, of course, the next choice is the generic level domain name. There are many generic level domain names such as .info, .name, .museum.arrow, and many more are going to are going to be made available in the future as well. So those are the three choices you have. Which domain name extension you go with depends on a variety of different things. The first one being, of course, is the company name or the domain name that you want is available. As I mentioned, shoes.com, for example, is not likely to be available, although if you are interested in that, you should check it. The second thing is also where you do business in. So, for example, in the UK, if you have a .com domain name, it will be less uh, will have a less of a reputation than if you have a .co.uk domain name. You will be more trusted than a .com. On the other hand, in some other countries, .com will be more trusted than their own country level domain name. So you have to understand where you are doing business and what the perception of the extension will be in that country. In most of the European countries, certainly in most of the Western European countries, the country level domain name has more is more trusted, more reputation than a .com would. But in the US, for example, or in Canada, and for that matter, .com holds more sway than .us, and to a lesser extent, in Canada, .ca will have less of a reputation than a .com, right? So you have to go with that. The second thing as a business that you would need is a hosting server. You would need a place where you can host your website. And a couple of things that you want to ask your website hosting providers is, do they meet the WordPress requirement? And I'll come back to that in just a second. But generally speaking, your host provider will either be able to provide you with either a Linux server or a Windows server. Most of the providers will provide you with a Linux server simply because it's cheaper. Windows are more expensive because of the licensing. You don't need to know a lot about servers unless you are a programmer, and if you're a programmer, then you're most likely not on this webinar or watching this recording. So you don't need to worry about too much what it is, what the servers are going to do, other than the fact that you're either going to end up with Linux or Windows, and Linux, generally speaking, are going to be cheaper than Windows. Now, you do need to understand WordPress requirements when you go and get a hosting provider, and two essentially things that you need to have is, number one, PHP version 5.2.4 or above, and MySQL version 5.0 or above. You must have those two things on your server, otherwise WordPress would not work. Again, you don't need to know a lot about what they are except for the fact that you need them to run WordPress. WordPress is developed in a programming language, or rather a scripting language called PHP, and therefore it needs PHP to run. Everything that you do on WordPress, all content that you have on WordPress, is stored in a database, and they use MySQL database to store that. That's all you really need to know. You don't need to get too technical into it. I don't want to scare anybody away by getting too technical into it. But when you're looking for a host provider, at the very least you need to know is if they support those two things. Optionally, it would be helpful if they also support a cPanel or something similar, and a Fantastico or something similar. So what does those two things do? cPanel allows you to manage your server with a very WYSIWYG format. So it has icons that allows you to manage your server rather than get geeky with it and understanding commands for Linux. And I will give you an example of that in just a second. The Fantastico is an installer. It makes it very easy to install a whole bunch of open source software, including WordPress, and it's just essentially a one step or a one-click installer, and makes it installing WordPress very easy. Now today we are not going to use either cPanel or Fantastico simply because I don't have that on my server, but I will show you an example of what they look like so you can see how much more easier it is. What we will do today is we will use FTP software, which is a file transfer protocol. Essentially, the steps you will take are these. You will go down to the WordPress.org website, and we will download the files from there. They're free. And then I'm going to use an unzip utilities, which you can download from rarlab.com, which is also free. And then I'm going to use an FTP software and transfer the files that I've just downloaded from WordPress.com and transfer them to my server. I use an FTP software called FileZilla, which is also free, and you can download that. I also need to have a database information and FTP information, which your host provider can provide you and tell you what that information is. If you use Fantastical, you still need to have a database information with that. And as I said, your host provider can give you that information. So let me actually show you what cPanel and Fantastical looks like. If your host company does have cPanel, this is what it would look like. As I said, it's very visual. You have icons to manage all of your information on your server that you need to manage, uh, on your website. If you scroll down a little bit, you would see these two things. You would see Fantastical, and if you clicked on that, you would have a whole bunch of software, open source software that you can install simply by clicking on, for example, if you wanted to install WordPress, you simply click on New Install. In this case, I'm using an example from another company, another hosting provider, and because I'm using the free demo version, they're not going to let me use their Fantastical, and that's why I will not be able to use it. And the other thing is this MySQL here, for example, that you have. And what you can do is you can create that information. Let me just go ahead and delete this one, and let's create a new one. Let's go back to that. And so I'm going to call my database name demo. So I'm just going to enter that name. I have a username that I'm also going to call demo. And then I'm going to set my password as demo 1234, and password I have to repeat that as demo 1234, and I simply create the database. This is all that information that you need: your host name, your database name, your username, and your password. It's not that scary or difficult, so don't get too hang up on that you need to know these things and it's technical. It's not very geeky. So I'm not going to use this particular information. I just wanted to show you how easy it is to create the database information that you would need. Let me go back to my control panel and also show you, if you have the cPanel installed, is information for the FTP. And this is the information you need for FTP: your host name, your username, your password, and where to upload your file. Again, I'm not going to use this particular information because this is a demo, but let me now show you what we're going to do. Let's go and install our WordPress. As I said, first thing we're going to do is go to wordpress.org, and then we're going to download the files by simply clicking here, and then I'm going to right click and I'm going to say save link as, and it's going to open a folder on my desktop. This folder can be anywhere on the desktop. You can save it you like. It doesn't have to be in a particular place, but just remember where you're saving it. I am going to save it on my desktop, and I have created a folder within my desktop called demo. So I'm going to save it within my desktop in a folder called demo. Again, you can save it anywhere you like. So it's downloading it right now, and it has downloaded it. So I'm going to go to that folder now and go to my desktop and go to my demo folder, and there's my file. I have the files right here, and I'm going to unzip that with just right clicking it on extracting it to my desktop. Again, it's extracting those files, which will just take a few seconds. Once the file is extracted on my folder, then I'm going to go and use an FTP client. In my case, I'm using FileZilla, and upload all of these files. This is the extracted files, and these are all the files that I need. So I'm going to go to my FTP folder and I'm going to connect to my FTP file using the information that I have. So my host name is openhomesmap.com. This is the domain name that I'm going to use to build a website on. And I'm going to use my username and password that I have created. And I'm going to click on connect. Now connect it to my server. I'm going to the folder where I can upload it, and as I said, I'm going to use a domain name openhomesmap.com. Before I upload the folders, let me go back to that openhomesmap.com. Let me go to that website right now, and as I said, there is nothing on the server right now. It's completely empty, and therefore I'm getting a message forbidden. So let's start uploading the files, and all I have to do simply is select all of these files and drag them to my server. And as you can see now, it's uploading them to my server. There are about 900 somewhat files that are going to need to be transferred, and depending on your server connection or your internet connection and your server speed, it might take a while. In this case, it's probably going to take less than a minute, probably about half a minute to 45 seconds or so to upload 900 odd files. Once all the files have been uploaded, then you can start building our website. Now again, as I said, the speed will depend on your internet connection, but also on your server speed. Some server host providers don't want you to upload a lot of information very quickly on their server because that impacts their server for other websites that they're hosting there. So they will actually manually slow down your upload speed. And that's usually is the case going to be depending on how much you have paid for your host provider. The cheaper you pay, lesser of the service that you're going to get. So while you're going to have to, cost is going to be important. You don't want it too cheap. You can get a good server for a good host these days from about, I would say, somewhere between $10 and $15 a month, right? Somewhere between $10 and $15, which is about $120 to $180 a year. You can get a very good host provider. Anything less than that, yes, there are host companies you can find for that will sell you something for $2 or $3 a month. Depending on what you want to do with your website, that might be a little too cheap. Now, if you only have 5 or 6 or 7 pages, not a problem. But if you're thinking about putting an e-commerce site or putting a lot of things that you can download and doing a lot of business online, then you would want to go with a better host company. Now, I've uploaded all of the files. They're now all on my server. So if you go back to the browser and refresh my web page, I'm going to get this information. Essentially what it's asking me, my WordPress files are now on the server, and it's asking me that it can't find the configuration file. Obviously it can't because we just uploaded the file, and it's asking me if we want to create that configuration file, which we of course want to do. So we click on that, and it's telling us that to create a configuration file, I need a database name, database username, password, and host information, which I already have, and I've shown you how to build that. It by default enters some of the information already, which actually I'm going to override because my information is different. So my domain name, database name is openhomesmap, and my username is demo, and password is demo2012. I'm going to leave the database host as localhost because that's what it is for me. It may be different for you. And I'm going to click on submit, and it's saying, okay, it can connect to my database. Do I want to install the file? Do I want to install WordPress? Which of course I do. I click on that. It's now asking me for my site name. My site name is openhomesmap, and I'm going to change the username, and I recommend that you do. By default it tells you admin, but I'm going to actually change that to something else, which is just a security precaution. And I'm going to set a demo password. Let's give it an email address as well. And you can either leave this checked or unchecked. Essentially, if you leave it checked, what you're telling it is, should you want Google to be able to index your search in your website? In most of the cases, you will probably want to, but while you're building your website, you don't want it to start doing it immediately. So I'm actually going to uncheck it because I don't want Google indexing a demo website. Then I click on Install WordPress. It will take less than a second, and there we have it. So it's telling me my website is installed, my username is demo, that is I selected, and my password is whatever I selected that, and it's asking me to log in to my administrative site. Before I log in and start changing my website, let me show you the website. So if I go back to openhomes.com, we now have a website. That is how easy it is to have a website in WordPress. As I said, it took maybe 5 minutes, maybe a little bit more than that, to install a WordPress website instantly, right? Obviously, it's not a website that we want. It already has a sample page on it, which looks like this, and it also have a blog. As I said, WordPress was initially designed to be a blog. So it already, the main page is a blog, and there's only one post on it talking to WordPress. We are obviously going to change all of that. And to change everything, what you do is you go to your domain name, in our case, openhomesmap.com, and /wp-admin, and it gives us the login information. Our login was demo and demo 2012. You log in with that, and the first time you go through it, it will give you this welcome to WordPress site, and it will give you some information about the basic settings, how to add content, how to optimize the site. I recommend that you go through that and read through that because it's some very good information. And once you're done with that, you can click on dismiss, and what you will get is your control panel. This is how you will see everything. And by default, it will add some posts, some pages, some categories, and some comments and things like that. We are gonna change essentially all of those things. The first thing we will do is, let me actually go back and show you what I'm changing. So if I go back to our sample page, what you would notice is that the sample page comes with a leave a reply. Again, as I said, it was designed initially as a blogging system, but we are using it as a content management system. On pages, we don't need this information. We obviously need that on blogs, but not on pages. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back, and that's the first thing we're going to change. So under settings and under discussion. So settings and discussions, and we're going to say allow people to comment on new articles. Now remember, it says new articles. So all articles, i.e. pages that we already have, it will not affect it only on new pages if they tag that. So I uncheck that. I'll go down and I will click on save change. Once that's done, that means that every new page that we will create will not have that commenting system at the bottom of the page. So it will not have this commenting system. So let us go and create some pages. The first page that I want to create is a home page. Now I'm going to also delete the sample page. We don't need a sample page. So I'm going to delete that. I'm going to add a new page. So under pages and add new. And I'm going to add home. And I am going to add some content that I actually copied from Wikipedia. I don't have to sit here and type and make something up. And simply I'm going to copy it and I'll paste it. That's how easy it is to put content in. Of course, you can always write information if you want to, right? Hello, this is our new website. You can add information if you want. If you're familiar with Microsoft Word or something similar like that, you can use any of these things. So if I wanted to, for example, bold this, I can do that. If I wanted to make this information a quotation, all I do is highlight that and I click on block quote, and it will do that. And if I click on show hide kitchen sink, it will give me a whole bunch of more information. Actually, let me just delete that line. So for example, if I wanted to make holding into orange, right, I can do that. If I wanted to underline this, I can do that. So again, you have, if I don't want to underline it, I can just undo it or redo it. But if I wanted to take, for example, LSD Chan, and I wanted to hyperlink it, all I do is go to select that, go to hyperlink, and add a URL. I don't have the URL, so I'm going to go with google.com, and I can say Alice T. Chan in there, and I wanted to open a new hyperlink. So that link is now hyperlinked, right? This is how easy it is to start adding content. So let me go ahead and publish this. So it's now published, and if we go back to our website and let's refresh this, now we have a home page. That the information that we added, and we have this as hyperlink. So if we, oops, sorry, LSD channel is hyperlinked, and it will open to Google in a new window. So as you can see, now we're starting to build some information here. But you would notice now that there are two home buttons. This is the home that we created, and this is the home that comes originally out of the box, which is a blog post. We don't want two home buttons, but we do want a blog post. If you want it, that is, in your business, you may or may not, but if you do want it, what we will do is we will create another page, add new under pages, and we will call it blog. You can call it anything you like. If you want to call it articles, or you want to call it news, or you want to call it Timbuktu, right? You can call it whatever you like. I call it blog because that's what we're going to do it. It's more, it's self-explanatory. That's what I'm going to do. So that's the first thing we'll do. We'll call it blog, and then we'll go under settings and reading. So settings and reading. By default, it's saying the front page will always be your latest post, which is your blog, but we're going to change that. So our front page, we're going to change our front page to home and our blog page to be blog. So our front page is not home, the home that we created ourselves, and the post page is a blog, and we'll click on save. And let's go back to our page. So we have two homes. Let's refresh that. So now we have a home page, which is our home page that we created, and we have a blog page, which is the blog that we can add more blogs to it. Okay, so that's the first thing you probably want to do. Now let's go back to our admin, and we're going to add a few more pages. Because this is an open homes website, and I want to have some information about the cities. So let me add some cities. If you have, obviously your business is going to be different. This is where you will add information about your products, your services. You probably want to have a page about your company, a page where they can contact you. So in our case, what we're going to do, this is our open homes page. We're going to have some information about cities. And so I'm going to add some few cities. I'm going to add Vancouver. And again, let me just copy and paste some information that I have. Now, a couple of other things I want to show you about this visual editor. This screen, if you find it to be too small, you can always make it larger by two ways. One is if you go to the end here, you will see your arrow changes from one head to two heads, and you can just scratch it like this. That's one way to do that. You can make it smaller or bigger. The second thing, however, you can do is you can go to this one and you can say full screen, and it will open up more information, and you can just start writing more information here. Write more information. I can't spell very well. And if you go up here, you will have all of your other visual editors that you need. You will just simply save it. And if you want to exit full screen, you can do that as well. So I'm going to publish that. And let's just add a few more pages. I'm again going to add some few more cities in there. Let's save that. And let's just add one more city here. And add that. I'm also going to add a picture here as well. So let me actually do that. To add a picture, all I have to do is click on, I did that too fast, so let me show you. To add a picture, what I need to do is upload insert and click on add media. You can either add, you can add all sorts of media here. You can add images, you can add videos, you can add PDF files, you can add Word documents, you can add any media that you want to. So I click on that, and I can either go from the URL or the media library. Now I don't have an image beforehand, so let me actually go to Google Image and go to White Rock, look for an image of White Rock. So this is actually looks good. So what I will do is I will copy the URL of the image, and I will go from the URL. Rather, if I were to do it from the computer, all I have to do is select file, and I can select any file from my computer. Okay, and I will show you later how to do that as well. But in this case, I'm just going to do the URL. I'm going to give it a title of White Rock, Columbia, and I'm going to click on Insert into Post. Okay. The image looks just a bit too big for me, so I'm going to edit the image, and I can do a couple of things. I can either select from here. Actually, that's the only thing I can do. So I'm going to go ahead and select the lowest 60%. I'm going to say left justify rather than, if I do none justify, then it will have an image and that my text. But I'm going to do a left justify, and I'm going to click on update. So go ahead and publish that. Now let's go back to our website. We now have all of these navigation for the pages that we just added. So we had home and blog initially, and we added Burnaby, Vancouver, and White Rock. If we click on White Rock, we also have our image and our content next to that. Now, this edit button here, that's only visible because I'm also logged in into the administrative side. If I wasn't logged into the administrative side, I will not see this edit button, but I will see all of this information here. Now, you would notice that besides home, everything else here is alphabetical order, which may or may not be the way I want it, right? The way I want it, I want home, and I want Vancouver, Burnaby, White Rock, and then blog, right? I want it in that order. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the format of that. And there are two ways you can do that. The first way, which comes natively, is by changing the order here. By default, every page is ordered as 0. And if every page is ordered as 0, then it will be shown alphabetically on the navigation menu. If you want to change the order of that, you can reorder every page by saying a different number here. So for example, if I want home to be the first one, I will say home is 0. If I want Vancouver, the next one I will say Vancouver is 1. And then Burnaby is 2, White Rock is 3, and blog is 4. However, I wouldn't do it that way. The way I would do it is I would say home is 10, Vancouver is 20, Burnaby is 30, White Rock is 40, blog is 50. The reason for that is if I wanted to add another page between, let's say, Vancouver, Burnaby, Vancouver being 20 and Burnaby being 30, let's say I wanted to put Richmond, then I can say Richmond is 25. It will fall right between Vancouver and Burnaby. But if I had done 1, 2, 3, 4, and I wanted to put something between two other pages, now I have to go back and renumber all of those pages, which is going to be, if you have a lot of pages, that's going to be a problem. Now, the reason I'm showing you this is because it is supported natively that way. However, some themes actually have a better way of doing it. So if I go to Appearance in here, and I go to Menu, I can actually create a new menu system. So Appearance and Menu. Not all themes support menus, so if they don't support, if you have a theme that doesn't support menus, then you have to do the way that I showed you a minute ago, which is by ordering it. But if it does support menu, it's much, much easier. First of all, you create a menu name and you call it anything you want. I'm going to call it main menu because again, it's simple to remember. This is my main menu, but you can call it anything you want. I'll create a menu. And what I will do is I will add all of these pages. I will select all of those pages and I'll add it to this menu. Once I've added the menu, I can simply drag and drop them in the order that I want to appear. So I want the home page to be the first page. Then I want Vancouver. Then I want Burnaby. And then I want White Rock and Blog. I'll save that. And then I will select my primary menu to be my main menu that I just created. I will save that. And now if I go back and refresh, voila, you have home, Vancouver, Burnaby, White Rock, and Blog, the way we want it to be. Okay. Now, where we are right now, we are on White Rock. So if we look up here, it says openhomesmap.com/ !page_id + 14. That's not a very good URL, right? It's not search engine optimized. It looks terrible. If I want to give somebody an address on the phone, for example, and I tell them, hey, go to the White Rock page, and I have to say openhomesmap.com / !page_id + 14, right? Who will say that? If I go on Vancouver, it's _id = 9, right? That's not very good. So let's change that. Let's go back to our admin area. Then we will go under settings and we will go under permalink. So settings and permalink, right? Settings, permalink. And by default, it is saying your domain name /ID. We don't want that. What we want is domain name /page name. So we will select the post name as a page name and we'll click on save. And now if you go back and refresh it, so Vancouver, which is the page we are on, is page_id 9. Let's refresh that. And now we have Vancouver as our URL. So it's much easier to tell somebody, say, go to openhomesmap.com / Vancouver. If you go back to White Rock, that's White Rock. If it's Burnaby, it's Burnaby. So it's none of that page ID type thing that you are seeing there now. Right. Let's add a couple of more pages to our website. The first page, let's go back to pages. The another page that we may want is about us, right? So about open, well, just about page, right? And I'm not going to type anything in here. I'm just going to show you a couple of new things in that. The other place we would want is contact us, right? We want our customers to be able to contact us. Again, I'm not going to add anything here, but I'm going to show you later on how we are going to add a contact us form on that. The other things that I want to add 2 more areas on a page, which will be a submenu. So for example, within Vancouver, there are a couple of neighborhoods that I want to add, right? These are not cities. These are neighborhoods within a city. So Cole Harbor is one of them. Again, let me just go back and copy and paste some information here. And in this case, what I want is the parent. It's not going to be on the top menu, but the parent is going to be Vancouver. And I click on publish. And if I go back, go back to that and refresh that, you will not see Cole Harbor on the main menu, but if you click on, actually, I made a slight mistake. Well, let me add another page and then I'll show you what I mean. Let me go back to Yaletown. Let me do the Vancouver as the parent of this page. And I have to now go back to appearance and menus. Remember, because we did not add these two into the menus, I'm going to go back and add that. And if I save this menu and go back, it will now show up here, but I don't want them here, right? What I want them is under Vancouver. So let me go back to this, and I'll just grab that, and under Vancouver, I will just slightly move them to the right, right? So same thing here. I'll move it to the right, save those changes. Now if I go back, this menu will disappear from my main bar, refresh, and they will appear under Vancouver. Right, so that's how easy it is to have that. So for example, if you have a page for products, but under that product page you have several different products, like 4, 5, 10, 100 products, whatever. So you can have a page called products, and under that you can have several products. Let's say that under Vancouver I had Cole Harbor, but Yaletown was under Cole Harbor and not under Vancouver. All I had to do in my menu is move Yaletown again to the right and save that. Now if we go back to our page, we will have Vancouver and just Cole Harbor, but when we hover above Cole Harbor, we will get Yaletown. So for example, if you have a product category, so under a page name called product, product category A, product category B, and then under a product category A, you may have several different products you can do with that. That's how you would do it, but I'm going to move it back there and I'll click on save. Let's also now go back and add some blog posts. So right now, our blog looks pretty empty. Oh, by the way, before I do this, I forgot to add contact and about us. So let me add those two pages to my contact, about, add to menu. And I want about to be first. Oops, not that. So, and then I want contact us, save those two. And now we go back, and so we are now showing about and contact us. Let us go and add some blog posts. So this time, instead of pages, we'll go to posts and add new. And I again have a few things that I have. I'm just going to add 2 blog posts. This is my first one. And I'm going to take the first line here, and I'm going to make that a title. So 3 open home traps are should avoid. I'm going to fix that a little bit, and I'm going to make this an H1. Now I'm not going to go too much into what H1 is, but essentially it's a heading, right? It's bolding it, but essentially from a search engine optimization perspective, it's actually H1 is good to have, right? So I'm going to go ahead and click on publish. And if you go back and refresh our page, go to blog, we now have open home site, that is a blog, and we have this as our H1, and then we have the one that came by default. I'm going to delete this one, so let's go back to all posts, which shows all of our posts. I'm going to delete the one that came by default, and I'm going to add a new one. So add new, And again, I'm just going to copy and paste this. I am once again going to go and take the first line, take the first line, make that title, and this first line now, which is the second line, I'm going to make that into a H1 tag as well. And I'm going to click publish. Now we have those two blog posts. Now in both blog posts, what you will notice is they're posted as uncategorized. So let's go back and create a couple of categories. I'm going to create two categories. One is going to be buyers, create category, and the other one is going to be sellers, and create a category. This one was expert tips and secrets to hosting a successful homepage. So obviously this is targeted for sellers. So I'm going to uncheck the other two, have the category as seller, and let me go back to my other post as well, which was 3 open home strap buyers should avoid, which is targeted at buyers, and I'm going to select buyers for that one and click on update. Now let's go back to our page. You would notice that currently we have categories uncategorized. I'm going to refresh the page, and now we have categories buyers and sellers. So what that means is this: if I had a whole bunch of blogs, right? Let's say I had 5 blogs for buyers and 20 blogs for sellers. If I'm a buyer, I'm not interested in looking at blog posts for sellers, right? If I click on buyers, then I will only see blog posts targeted to buyers. Now you only see one post rather than 2 posts because I am in my category buyers, right? If you have a lot of categories, then you can narrow it down. Let's say you're selling cars and you have a blog post for each car manufacturer. So you have Toyota, you have Ford, you have Chevrolet, you have Mazda. You can then have categories for each one of them. You may have a category for new cars and used cars. So you can have those things. You may have a category for car buyers and you can have a categories for car sellers. Well, you get the point, right? So you can have different categories and you can have blog posts for each of those categories. So that's a bit about blogs. Well, let me actually tell you one more thing. Let's say you want to write a blog post every week, one blog post a week. That's what you want to do, but you're going away on a vacation for 2 weeks. You don't want to write a blog post when you're on a vacation. So what you can do is, instead of, when you click on publish, by default, if I click on add new, by default it will publish immediately, right? You can always edit that, and you can select a different date in the future. So if you're going on a vacation for 2 weeks, you can write 2 blog articles and you can set them to publish one of next week and one the week after, right? On the other hand, you can also do things like, for example, let's say you set a day aside a month and you say, okay, this month I'm going to write a blog post one a week, so that means I'm going to write about, let's say, 4 or 5 blog posts. You're going to write all of these blog posts on the same day, but you can set the publishing day out in the future. So every week, automatically on a particular date that you have selected, one blog will be posted. So you can write a blog post once a month, get them out of the way, and you don't have to worry about them for the whole month. And you can do it on a monthly basis instead of worrying about it every single week, what you're going to write about them this week, right? So that's the other handy thing that's good if you, for your blog marketing perspective. So the next thing we're going to do, we are only going to do 2 more things. We're going to show you how to add a plugin and extend your website. And I'm going to also then show you how to put a different theme to your website and change the look and feel. So let's do the plugins. remember how we had a website or a web page for contact us, right? Let me actually go back to that page. So we have a web page, contact us. Right now there's nothing in it. What we're going to do is we're going to put in a form where people can send us an email. And for that, we can either, if you know HTML or PHP or programming language, we can create a form, right? But we don't know any of those things. So I'm going to click on Add New, and I'm going to search for, and I know this plugin, so I'm going to search for Contact Form 7. And if you didn't see me do this, let me show you again. I clicked on Plugins, clicked on Add New, and I'm going to search for a particular plugin called Contact Form 7. I click on Search Plugins, and the first one that comes is the one that I want, although there are many others that I can select from. But the first one is the one that I wanted, and you can see the rating. It's the rating of 4-star based on 1,400 people, almost 1,500 people that have said that, given them an average rating of 4 stars. I'm going to click on Install now, and it's asking me if I do. I say yes. It's asking me where I want it installed. I want it installed on my server, so open homesmap.com, username and password, and I click on Proceed. It's going to go download that information, and it will asking me now to activate it. So if my form is there, I click on Activate. Now, when you activate a plugin, several things may or may not happen. The first thing is that it may not need any settings, right? Any configuration. But if it does, that information may be somewhere here. Sometimes it's right here. For example, it put it right here, and it also put it in here because this is the developers have made it easier. But sometimes the developers don't make it easier. Sometimes they put it under settings and it will appear somewhere around here, right? So just keep that in mind, that when you add a plugin and it does require some configuration, it may not be the easiest thing to find what that configuration is. So we can either click on settings here or we can click on settings there to set the page. Now with Contact Form 7, it already comes with the form. But you can add any type of form you want, right? If you want a subscription form, if you want a form where you're asking people survey, you can add a survey form. You can add a whole bunch of forms that you want. In this case, we just want a contact us form, and that information is already here. It already has my email address because when I set up the WordPress, it asked me the email address. So all I have to do in this case is copy this thing that is up here. So let me just make sure I've highlighted it properly. So I copy the whole thing, copy, and I will go to the page where I want it. And where I want it is obviously the Contact Us page. Now, so far we were dealing with this visual editor under the visual editor. When you add something like a short code, and what we just copied is called a short code, we actually want to go to the HTML, okay, because this is an HTML that we are adding in. All we have to do is paste it. Okay, copy, paste. We just pasted it. That's all we have to do. We click on Update, and now if you go back to our page, we had nothing on our page first. We click on Refresh, and now we have Contact Us form automatically, right? And if I send demo, and then I'm just gonna make up a domain name. Hello, let's see if this works. Oops, works. Click on send, and I get this message. Your message was sent successfully. And if I go and open my email box, inbox. And here's a message from my so new WordPress. Oh, oops, no, that's not the one. That's when I created that. There it is. Sorry, that's the one that just came through. So demo from me. Hello. Let's see if this works. Right. In 2 seconds, using a plugin, we were able to add a form on our site. Right. This is how powerful. Oops, let me just close my. This is how powerful plugins are. This is how extendable your plugins can be. Let me go and add another plugin that you might find helpful in the future. Oops, let's go back to plugin, add new, and we will add, this time we are looking for SEO. I think it's SEO by Yoast that I'm looking for. So I click on that. No, that wasn't it. Just let me search for SEO. Okay, so we have SEO, WordPress SEO by Yoast. That's the one I want to install. And again, there are multiple other ones. I already know about this one. Again, if I look at the rating, it's 4.5 star by 1,400 people. So I know it's a good one. I click on install. It's asking me for my password again. Click on that. And again, I can activate the plugin from here. And it's asking me if I want to. Now this is again one of those plugins that are very good. It's automatically asking me if I want to configure it, and I click on Start Tour. Now I'm not going to configure the whole thing. The only thing that I really want to do is actually I think it's already configured, enabled by default, so I don't have to worry about that. But what happens is, let me actually now go to Page. And now I have this whole bunch of other things that we can do here to make it more search engine optimized. I'm not going to go over all of these functions today because we are going to be doing a future webinar about search engines. So we are going to discuss many of these things then. But it is suffice to say, this plugin will make your website even far more search optimized, right? Let me go back to WordPress. Let me go back to WordPress.org where we downloaded the original files from by clicking on this, right? But if I go to plugins, and you can see there are over 19,000 plugins. There are tremendous amount of plugins that you can use to extend your website and make your website far more powerful than what it comes from out of the box, right? This is how easy it is to make your website that much more powerful. Of course, not all of the plugins are great plugins, but many of them are, and you will see you can find great plugins just simply by searching for them on Google. While we're here, let me also show you some themes, right? There are 1,500 themes that you can change to use to change the look and feel of your website. So let me go and show you how easy it is to do that. This is what our website looks like right now, right? This is where my logo might go. I have a bit of a image up here, and then my pages show up here. But I don't really like the look and feel that much. So let's go back, and this time we are going to go to Appearances, and we're going to go and click on Install Themes. And I'm going to search for business. But before I click on search, you can actually search with any of these things. So for example, if you have a particular color that you're interested in because that's the color of your business, you can search by that. You can search by how many columns you want or what kind of features you like, right? So I'm just going to search for business, and I'm going to not select any of these features. So these are the themes that have been tagged that are maybe good for business teams, right? And I'm going to use this one. I'm going to click on install now. Again, it's going to ask me for that information. proceed, and it's asking me to preview it or activate that. So right now I have these three themes. This is the one that we just installed. All I have to do is click on activate, and if you go back to our page now, refresh, and voila, we have a new look and feel. We still have all our pages. Now our pages are a bit messed up because remember how I said that not all themes support the menu button that we were using in menus, and this theme does not, the current theme does not natively support this menu. So this menu that we had would not work in this case, right? So for this, we would have to do where we would have to go to each page and click on this order by, because the menu item would not work in this theme. So we are kind of going back to the original way it was before, right? Although I would say that interestingly enough, other than the blog, it kept everything else here. So let's see if we can fix that. If you go back to settings and reading, interesting, right? Actually, before we change this, let's go to appearances and see if we can make any changes to the theme option. So this particular theme comes with the theme options. Not every theme comes with option, right? Keep that in mind, only some do. So we're going to go to themes option and see if there is something here. No, it doesn't look like that there is anything here that would allow us to do that. So what we would need to do is we go to the pages and we take the home page. I'm not going to delete the page, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this publish status from publish to draft. And I'll update that. Let's go back to our site and see if the home is okay. At least the home is gone. The blog is not where I want it to be, but at least everything else is now fine. Now this is a free theme. One of the things that, as I mentioned earlier, many of the themes are free, many of the plugins are free, but many of the themes and plugins are also commercial, so you can also buy some of these ones. This particular one is free, so it has a lot of limitations. It's not as good as some of the paid ones you might find. So, but still, it has a lot of options, right? So what I'm going to go is I'm going to change a couple of things. I'm going to change my logo. Obviously, this is not my business logo, and I'm going to change this, right? So let me go back to appearance, theme options, and I'm going to change the custom logo. I'm going to upload a new logo. Let me upload. I'm going to upload this particular logo. Okay, saying that it can't upload a logo because, okay, so I have to go back to my content. Actually, I'm going to see if I can just do this. You probably wouldn't need to do that, and if you do, you can ask your host provider, but most of the time you won't have to do this particular bit, so don't worry about what I just did because you most likely won't have to do that. So let's try and upload. Now it will upload it. Oops, sorry. And after uploading it, I'll click on Save Changes. Changes are updated. So we now have a new logo. Let me also change this particular bit. So we'll go under Home Page Settings, and I am going to change that bit. And I am going to select this house as my main image. Let me go back and save those changes and see what happens there. So now we have that, right? And of course we can change these ones as well. If I go back here to, the first heading, let's say Vancouver open homes, and let's change the featured image on the first one. A good featured image. Let's try this one. Probably not, but let's try it. And the content would be listing all open homes in the Vancouver metro area. I'm going to change, I can change the link, I'm not going to do it, and I can do this, the second, and so on and so forth. These are these ones, right? So 1, 2, and 3 is where I'm making these, where I'm making these changes. There are 3 changes, and I have only made the changes to the first one. So let's go and see what happens to that. So now I've changed, obviously my image is smaller, I can make it listing all homes. And if I click on read more, it will take me to the page that I want to, which would be the Vancouver one. So in the short time, you can see with a free WordPress install, free plugins, and free themes, we have changed the look and feel. And when we change the look and feel, we didn't change the content. The content is still there. All the content that we had added is already still there. That hasn't changed, right? And that's the beauty of WordPress. So in about an hour, we had made the changes. Let me actually show you one more last theme that might be of interest to you. As I said, it's a free theme. It's not very configurable. It has limitations. But there's another theme which is also free. Not all themes have limitations. I can never pronounce the name of this. Let me actually, you know what, do a Google search on this because I'll probably get wrong. WordPress Atalupa, that's it. Don't ask me to pronounce this. How you say it? Atahualpa. I'll search for that and I will install that. This is a free theme as well. However, it may not look as nice right out of the box as the one that we had just installed, but it is an extremely powerful theme. This is the one that we're gonna now install, so we will activate that. And if you go back to our page, our theme will obviously now looks completely different, right? Not as pretty as the one we just installed, but, and I'm not going to go into it, but if we go to our theme options, there are over 200 theme options here that are completely reconfigurable. Let me show you some of the configuration that you can make here. So for example, our menu button is on the top here. I don't want it on the top. I want it at the bottom, right? So all I have to do is go to, and you will have to, this is now getting a bit complex, and I mean, I can do a webinar, and perhaps I would, just on this theme, an hour-long webinar just on this theme, and we may do that in the future. So if I go back, now it's moved down here from up there. Let's say on the home page, I don't want the left and the right column, right? All I have to do is go to my sidebar configuration. I don't want it on the left column. I will just on the home page, but on the other pages, and I know I'm moving a little bit too fast because this is only an hour-long webinar. Oops, what did I do? Okay, oops, sorry, the front page. No, we were on the blog, that's why. Okay, let me actually go back to the front page. So the front page, we don't have the left and the right column, but every other page, we have the left and the right column. The other thing you would notice is that this is a bit too wide, so I'm going to change that a little bit, right? I don't want it as wide. What I want it is perhaps only about 70% of the page, right? So let me save that, refresh. Now it's changed. And perhaps we will do a demo on this theme because while it's free, it is very configurable. As I said, There are over 200 configurations that you can change and make your website looks really, really good. As a matter of fact, our smallbusinesscenter.com website is built on this particular theme. So essentially, that's the end of our webinar today, or the recording of our webinar today. If you have any questions, please go to our facebook.com webpage, a Small Business Center. Notice that there is no E in the end, it is CENTR. And if you go there, you can post any questions that you may have. If you haven't liked us, feel free to like us. We don't have any resource guide for this particular one right now, but we may have resource guides in the future for this. And if you want to contact us, do so. We will be starting our weekly webinars shortly, so stay tuned for that. Thank you very much and have a great day.